Experience a unique two-voice AI conversation powered by Google's NotebookLM for deeper, more dynamic book analysis. Okay, so imagine this. You take one of the most pivotal events in all of history, the last hours of Jesus, but you don't treat it like scripture. Instead, you treat it like a breaking news story. How would a seasoned journalist cover that assignment? And could that approach, maybe surprisingly, actually deepen its spiritual meaning for millions? Well, that's exactly what Jim Bishop did with his huge work, The Day Christ Died, which came out way back in 1957. And this book, it wasn't just like a minor success. It was an instant sensation. Sold over 3 million copies, got translated into 16 languages. It really carves out its own space in Bishop's signature day genre, like he did before with The Day Lincoln Was Shot. So today we want to explore how Bishop took this story, one many people already knew, and turned it into this gripping hour-by-hour account. How did he manage to blend that journalistic style with, well, a profound religious story to get both that massive commercial success and a real spiritual impact?
And just a quick note as we get started, remember to check out Mindful Moments. That's our YouTube channel. It offers AI book analysis like this, really designed to spark some reflection and maybe some rational thought on different books, a fresh look, you could say. So, okay, let's unpack this. Bishop's main idea, his central premise, it wasn't about writing some dense theological book, right? He said it himself pretty clearly. This is a book about the most dramatic day in the history of the world. So what was he really aiming for? Framing it like that.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? His core argument, and it was pretty bold, was that by using these repertorial techniques, he could actually reveal both things, both the intense human drama of it all and the divine significance underneath. He even famously said the Gospels themselves were written by 4 fine journalists.
Oh, okay.
So right away, that reframing, it just invites a much wider group of people in, especially, as he put it, the unlearned and unsophisticated he wanted to reach. His goal was pretty clear. Make this hugely significant event historically and spiritually accessible, not just for theologians,
Right, democratizing it in a way.
Exactly. He wanted everyone to have access. And his credibility, his ethos, that was built in a really unique way. He wasn't some academic. He was a working-class journalist, born in Jersey City, actually dropped out of school after 8th grade.
Oh, okay.
But he climbed the ladder, copy boy all the way up to a nationally syndicated columnist. His authority came from, sheer hard work and a proven track record. I mean, think about it. He spent 24 years meticulously researching the day Lincoln was shot.
Yeah, that's incredible dedication.
Poring over every document, every interview detail he could find. And he brought that exact same exhaustive investigative method to the crucifixion story. So that deep journalistic background gave him this unconventional credibility for writing about religion. Plus, being a Catholic layman, not clergy, let him approach it with reverence, but still use that direct, accessible newsman's tone.
So people trusted him because he was known for accuracy, but also relatable.
Precisely. His reputation for factual accuracy and just compelling storytelling built over decades, it transferred really well to the subject. And those working class roots, they helped ordinary readers connect with him. He wasn't some intimidating academic figure.
And you mentioned his research methods amplified this.
Oh, definitely. He didn't just sit in a library. He immersed himself. He actually went to the Holy Land.
Right.
Walked the Via Dolorosa, explored Gethsemane, talked to clerics from different faiths. He even met Pope Pius XII.
He met the Pope?
Yep, who apparently reviewed Bishop's plan and gave the project his approval.
Wow.
So you have this papal endorsement combined with rigorous journalistic professionalism. It created this unique authorial voice, spiritually grounded, but also, empirically checked. And you also have to remember the time this came out. The 1950s in America.
Right, the post-war religious revival period.
Exactly. There was a big demand for Christian writing that people could actually, connect with. But a lot of the traditional theology stuff was pretty academic, maybe a bit dry for the average person.
Abstract.
Very abstract. Bishop saw that gap. He realized there was a huge opening for treating sacred subjects journalistically. Especially after the day Lincoln was shot proved his whole hour-by-hour reconstruction thing could be a massive success.
So the timing was right.
Perfect timing. And think about the Cold War context, too. People were grappling with big questions about human nature, sacrifice, redemption.
Themes right at the heart of the crucifixion story.
Exactly. Bishop sensed that telling Jesus' death as this vivid historical drama, not just pure doctrine, could reach people maybe turned off by institutional religion. And at the same time, it could strengthen the faith of believers by grounding it in this sort of new, detailed reality.
That really is a fascinating and
audacious way to approach it. So if his idea was basically to report on something from 2,000 years ago,
Yeah.
how? How did he piece together? What was in his, investigative toolkit beyond just the Bible?
Yeah, his commitment to detail was just extraordinary. That's what really lifts it beyond just a retelling. It becomes this vibrant reconstruction. Now, obviously, he drew heavily and very respectfully from the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. That was his primary source.
Sure, the core accounts.
But he didn't stop there. Not at all. He pulled in a whole wealth of other historical sources. He looked at Josephus, the first-century Jewish historian, to really get the political and social feel of Roman-occupied Judea back then.
Okay, for context.
Right. He read the early church fathers to see how the story was understood and passed down right after the events happened. And he carefully wove in archaeological evidence, things that gave context to the physical places, like the temple layout or Jerusalem's streets.
So he wasn't just relying on the texts alone.
No, and his research went even further. He dug into really specific cultural details, things like Roman legal procedures, how did trials actually work, what exactly was a Roman scourging, the mechanics of crucifixion.
The nitty-gritty details.
Exactly, and Jewish religious practices too, the meaning of Passover rituals, the Sanhedrin's role, burial customs, even the geography of ancient Palestine to describe settings accurately.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned, his own personal research trip, walking the Via Dolorosa, going to the Mount of Olives, Gethsemane.
So it wasn't just academic, it was real field work.
It absolutely was. Journalistic fieldwork applied to ancient history, meeting religious leaders, gathering different perspectives, immersive stuff. And then there's how he structured the book. That's key to its power.
Perhaps so.
It follows this really strict chronological timeline. 22 specific hours. Starts at 6 p.m. Thursday with the Last Supper.
Okay.
And ends at 4 p.m. the next day when Jesus is taken down from the cross. And Bishop breaks this down into really carefully structured parts, sometimes hour by hour, even minute by minute in places.
To build tension,
No.
even though we know the ending.
Precisely. It maintains this relentless dramatic tension. It's masterful narrative construction, really.
Yeah.
He's definitely using techniques almost like from movies, setting scenes, developing characters, pacing things carefully. It creates these visual moments that pull you in.
Makes you feel like a witness.
Yeah, he's showing, not just telling. You feel like you're there, silently watching it unfold.
So, okay, all that incredible research, that careful structure, what does it all mean for us, the readers? How did his actual writing style, his choices, make this old familiar story feel so immediate, so impactful, almost like, breaking news?
That's a great question because it gets to how he made it so compelling, right? His logical foundation, his logos, that was about weaving together all those sources. He took the historical stuff, the cultural details, and integrated them with the gospel stories. And when there seemed to be contradictions between the gospels, he didn't just ignore them. He'd find plausible ways to reconcile them.
How would he do that?
Well, maybe suggesting different eyewitnesses focused on different parts of the same event, that kind of thing. It satisfied that need for historical plausibility.
Without undermining faith.
Exactly. It respected the core accuracy of the accounts. Then there's the emotional appeal, the pathos. It's powerful, but actually quite understated. He doesn't really go for melodrama.
He lets the events speak for themselves.
Pretty much. He uses these vivid sensory details, makes ancient things feel physical, immediate. The sound of the whip during the scourging, the feel of the splintery wood of the cross, the sheer physical agony, and the raw human reactions of the disciples, their fear, their confusion, their grief. He really develops the psychological side of things.
Making them feel like real people.
Absolutely. Jesus' quiet resolve, Mary's anguish, Peter's despair after the denial, Judas's torment. You feel their humanity. It's this kind of evocative restraint, letting you feel the drama without feeling manipulated, which maybe paradoxically makes the spiritual side hit harder.
Can you give an example of that style?
Sure. There's a line like, "From Jesus' lungs came a final cry. It is finished. The body sagged on the cross. Jesus willed himself to die."
Yeah, you feel the weight of that.
Yeah.
Very direct.
Very direct. And that leads to his language and style overall. It really shows his journalism background. People describe his writing as spare, direct. Some even said glassy, superficial style, but often meaning it was clear, like looking through glass. He was definitely aiming for that Hemingway-esque brevity.
Short sentences, accessible language.
Exactly. Short declarative sentences. He avoided theological jargon, used everyday words, made really complex stuff easy for a massive audience to grasp. He also used irony really effectively, subtle irony.
How so?
Highlighting that gap,
Yeah.
between what the people in the story understood at the time and what we, the readers, know about the ultimate significance of it all.
Dramatic irony.
Precisely. It's really powerful in scenes like Judas's betrayal. His actions seem so tragically short-sighted from our perspective, or Pilate trying to wash his hands of it all.
The decision that changed the world.
Right. And he'd also use strategic repetition sometimes, maybe emphasizing Jesus's calm under pressure compared to everyone else's turmoil. It builds themes without ever dropping that journalistic feel.
That's a really powerful breakdown of his technique. So given how unique this was, how impactful, what's the final legacy of the book? Did everyone just accept this approach? Or were there criticisms, people pushing back on mixing journalism with scripture like this?
Well, overall, you'd have to say Bishop was remarkably successful in what he set out to do. Forget the massive sales for a second. Critical reception, generally, suggests he did achieve that deeper goal. Helping people understand the story better without sacrificing accuracy or spiritual weight, at least for most readers.
What did readers say?
Many, many people reported back that all that cultural background, the details about Roman law, Jewish customs, it genuinely deepened their appreciation of Jesus' sacrifice, the whole context of the Passion.
So the detail really worked.
It highlights the power of his method, right? Yeah. Making an ancient sacred text more relatable by grounding it in meticulous history, and his portrayal of Jesus as both fully human and divine that seemed to resonate deeply. It avoided being overly sentimental, but also wasn't dry and academic. It bridged that gap.
But you said most readers, what were the critiques?
Right. It wasn't universal praise. Some critics definitely felt he took too much artistic license.
Meaning?
Specifically, creating dialogue or giving characters internal thoughts, psychological insights, things that aren't explicitly in the Gospels.
Filling in the blanks.
Exactly. Suggesting he presented some speculative stuff as if it were factual reconstruction. Like inventing an internal monologue for Pilate, or writing detailed conversations not directly quoted in Scripture.
Which raises questions about fact versus interpretation with sacred texts.
Definitely. It's a valid point about where that line is. Also, while his Catholic viewpoint was valuable for many, it perhaps limited its appeal slightly for some Protestant or secular readers.
They might have wanted something strictly non-denominational.
Possibly, though honestly, given the book's huge reach, that seems like it was a relatively minor issue overall.
So despite some valid criticisms, its relevance holds up.
Oh, immensely so. Bishop's whole approach, his strategies, they're still incredibly relevant for religious communication today. He proved pretty clearly that you can present sacred material in an accessible way without watering it down or losing its power. His journalistic method offers this really interesting middle ground, doesn't it? Between a kind of fundamentalist literalism that might miss the human context and a liberal skepticism that might strip away the spiritual significance. He managed to bridge academic scholarship and popular understanding.
Showing research and storytelling can go hand in hand.
Absolutely. That focus on accuracy, cultural sensitivity, and just gripping narrative, it's kind of a timeless blueprint for engaging people. The book's lasting influence really shows how powerful skilled storytelling can be, even with familiar stories. It moves beyond just giving information to creating real emotional investment, maybe even spiritual impact.
So when you boil it down, Jim Bishop's incredible achievement was taking this deeply sacred story and making it feel like immediate, accessible history, all through that powerful, rigorous journalistic lens. He made it feel human, real, letting millions connect with it in a fresh, impactful way, almost like experiencing it firsthand.
And Bishop's book really does challenge us, doesn't it, to think about how much deeper our understanding of any historical event, even one wrapped up in faith, can become, especially when we approach it with that kind of journalistic rigor, digging for every detail and keeping a sharp eye on the human drama within it. How does that kind of reconstruction maybe reshape your perspective on things?
Definitely something to think about. We hope this look at the day Christ died has given you plenty to reflect on. If you found this conversation insightful, please do subscribe and maybe share it with others you think might appreciate it. You can find The Day Christ Died by Jim Bishop using the link in the description if you're interested in reading it yourself. And remember to check out Mindful Moments, our YouTube channel, and our podcasts for more AI book analysis like this one, aimed at inspiring reflection. As always, think critically about the information you encounter. We'll see you next time.